There is a version of you that was built before you were old enough to make any decisions, before you had a job, before you understood what money was. Your brain was already being shaped by the financial environment around you, and the version of you built in those early years is still making most of your money decisions today. This is one of the most robust findings in behavioral economics and developmental psychology, and it explains why people who grow up without money often stay without money. Not because they are lazy, but because scarcity rewired their brain in ways that are almost invisible from the inside. In 2013, economists Sendhil Mullainathan at Harvard and Eldar Shafir at Princeton published research that changed how scientists understood the psychology of poverty. Their work introduced the concept of scarcity mindset, the idea that when the mind is focused on not having enough of something critical, it enters a cognitive state that is highly focused but deeply tunnel-visioned. Scarcity captures the mind. It forces attention onto the immediate shortage and away from everything else. This tunneling has a measurable cost. People operating under scarcity conditions perform significantly worse on cognitive tests, measuring fluid intelligence, executive function, and future planning. The mental bandwidth consumed by managing scarcity leaves less available for everything else. The poor are not poor because they make bad decisions. They make decisions that look bad because poverty itself reduces the cognitive capacity available for decision-making. But here is where the research goes deeper. The scarcity mindset does not disappear when the scarcity does. Psychologist Paul Piff at UC Irvine spent years studying how childhood financial environments shape adult behavior. People who grew up in lower-income households showed measurably different patterns of threat detection and resource allocation even when their adult income was high. The brain trained in scarcity continues to operate as if scarcity is the default condition long after the material circumstances have changed. This is because the brain that grew up without enough was being rational. In an environment of genuine scarcity, it is rational to prioritize immediate needs over long-term planning. It is rational to spend money when you have it rather than save it, because experience has taught you it will be needed for an emergency. It is rational to distrust financial institutions and avoid investments that feel like risks you cannot afford to lose. Every one of those behaviors is adaptive in a scarcity environment, and every one of them becomes a liability in a wealth-building environment. Neuroscientist Bruce McEwen at Rockefeller University spent decades studying what chronic stress, the kind produced by financial precarity, does to the developing brain. Prolonged exposure to stress hormones produced by economic insecurity physically alters the architecture of the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and financial decision-making. The brain literally grows differently under chronic scarcity. This is why telling someone who grew up poor to simply think long-term and delay gratification is not just unhelpful. It is asking them to override neural architecture built over years of genuine survival. The obstacle is not knowledge or motivation. It is a brain running a different operating system. The people who escape the scarcity mindset do not do it by learning financial literacy alone. Research shows they do it by changing their environment first. Stable income, predictable expenses, genuine safety nets, allowing the brain to slowly recalibrate its threat detection system over time. The most dangerous thing about the scarcity mindset is that it is invisible to the person living inside it. It does not feel like a mindset. It feels like reality. It feels like good judgment. It feels like knowing how the world actually works. Because for a long time, it did. The question worth sitting with is not whether you have a scarcity mindset. Almost everyone who grew up without financial stability has one in some form. The question is whether you can see it. Because the moment you can see the operating system, you can begin to write new code.